Research is hard, but your tools should not be. Subthesis.com is the free alternative to expensive software. Whether you need to calculate Cronbach's alpha or organize your field notes, Subthesis has a tool for it. No paywalls and no registration required. Check the link in the description and let's dive into today's lesson. Welcome to our video on data collection best practices. You've developed your research question, reviewed the literature, selected your methodology, and obtained ethical approval. Now comes the moment when planning meets reality, actually collecting data. Data collection is where research lives or dies. The most brilliant research design produces nothing if data collection fails. Conversely, careful, systematic data collection can elevate modest designs into valuable contributions. Many graduate students underestimate data collection's challenges because it seems mechanical compared to conceptual work. But experienced researchers know that data collection requires constant judgment, problem solving, and attention to detail. Over the next 20 minutes, we'll explore principles and practices for collecting high-quality data, regardless of your specific methodology. We'll cover preparation and piloting, participant recruitment and retention, implementing procedures consistently, handling unexpected challenges, documentation and quality assurance, and recognizing when adjustment is needed. Whether you're conducting surveys, interviews, experiments, observations, or mixed methods research, these fundamentals will help you gather data that's trustworthy, complete, and capable of answering your research questions. The time you invest in excellent data collection pays dividends throughout analysis and reporting and saves enormous frustration from trying to salvage problematic data later. Thorough preparation before data collection prevents problems that are difficult or impossible to fix once collection begins. Finalize all instruments and materials before beginning. Surveys should be complete with final wording. Interview guides should have all prompts developed. Experimental protocols should specify every step. Observation rubrics should define every category. Last-minute changes create version control problems and compromise consistency. Establish clear protocols documenting exactly how data collection should proceed. Who does what, when, and how? What do you say when recruiting? What order do procedures follow? How do you record data? Written protocols ensure consistency and enable others to replicate your procedures. If you have a research team, train them thoroughly. Reading protocols isn't sufficient. Practice together, observe each other, provide feedback, and establish reliability before live data collection. Different team members implementing procedures differently introduces unwanted variation. Pilot testing is essential. Even well-designed instruments reveal problems in actual use. Questions that seemed clear confuse participants. Procedures that seemed smooth encounter friction. Pilot with a small number of participants similar to your target sample, then refine based on what you learn. Plan logistics meticulously. Where will data collection occur? What equipment do you need? How will you schedule participants? What will you do if equipment fails, participants don't show, or emergencies arise? Contingency planning for common problems prevents scrambling during actual collection. Pilot testing deserves emphasis because it's so often skipped or done superficially, leading to preventable problems. Every data collection approach benefits from pilot testing. Survey questions may be ambiguous. You won't know until participants try to answer them. Interview guides may miss important topics or flow awkwardly. Experimental procedures may take longer than expected or create confusion. Observation categories may not capture what actually happens. Pilot testing reveals problems invisible during planning because researchers know their intent and can't fully see their materials from participants' perspectives. What seems obvious to you may confuse participants encountering materials for the first time. Pilot participants expose these gaps. Use pilot participants similar to your actual target sample. Piloting a survey for non-English speakers with English-fluent colleagues misses comprehension issues you need to discover. Piloting interviews about graduate student experiences with faculty members misses important perspectives. Similarity matters. Gather feedback systematically during piloting. After completing procedures, ask pilot participants what was confusing, what felt awkward, what they would improve, and what questions they wanted to answer but couldn't. This feedback is as valuable as the data itself. Revise based on pilot findings, then consider additional piloting if changes were substantial. The goal is to work out problems before investing heavily in full-scale data collection. Time spent piloting saves far more time addressing problems later, or worse, collecting data that can't adequately answer your questions. Participant recruitment challenges derail more studies than most students anticipate. Developing systematic recruitment strategies is essential for research success. Define eligibility criteria clearly before beginning recruitment. Who qualifies? Who doesn't? How will you verify eligibility? Unclear criteria lead to including participants who shouldn't be included or excluding those who should. Write criteria precisely enough that different team members would make the same inclusion decisions. Develop multiple recruitment channels rather than relying on one source. If your only strategy is posting flyers and no one responds, your study stalls. Consider partnering organizations, social media, listservs, professional networks, snowball sampling, participant databases, and community connections. Different channels reach different populations. Craft recruitment materials that are compelling but accurate. You want people interested enough to participate, but overselling creates problems when reality doesn't match promises. Emphasize genuine benefits and interesting aspects of participation without exaggeration that undermines informed consent. Allow more time for recruitment than you expect. Most researchers underestimate recruitment timelines. Response rates are typically lower than hoped. Scheduling takes time. Build buffer into your timeline for slower than expected recruitment rather than discovering recruitment problems when you're already behind schedule. Track where participants come from and response rates for different channels. This information helps you allocate effort efficiently. If one channel produces many participants and another produces none, adjust accordingly. Document recruitment for your methods section. Your methodology determined your sampling strategy. Now you implement it in practice, which always presents challenges the plan didn't anticipate. Implement your sampling strategy as planned in your protocol. If you proposed random sampling, actually randomize. Don't select convenient participants and call it random. If you propose maximum variation, purposeful sampling, actually seek diverse cases. Don't just take whoever volunteers. Integrity requires following your plan. Document any deviations from your sampling plan and explain them transparently. Perfect implementation is rare, but undocumented deviation is problematic. If you couldn't reach certain intended participants, note that. If you added participants you hadn't anticipated, explain why. Transparency preserves credibility. Monitor sample characteristics during data collection. Are you getting the diversity you need? Are certain groups underrepresented? Early monitoring allows course correction, adjusting recruitment strategies to reach underrepresented groups before it's too late. Address representativeness concerns proactively. If your probability sample has low response rates, consider non-response analysis. If your qualitative sample lacks certain perspectives, strategically recruit to fill gaps. Don't wait until writing results to discover your sample is problematic. Know when you've reached saturation or adequacy. Qualitative research aims for saturation, the point where additional data generates no new insights. This requires ongoing analysis during collection. Quantitative research requires adequate sample sizes for statistical power. Don't collect less than needed, but also recognize when you have enough. Survey research seems simple, but conducting quality surveys requires attention to numerous details. Provide clear instructions so respondents understand what's expected. How long will the survey take? Can they save and return? Is anonymity or confidentiality provided? Clear upfront information reduces confusion and abandonment. Survey navigation should be intuitive, not requiring instructions themselves. Design logical question flow with sensible grouping. Put related questions together. Progress from less sensitive to more sensitive topics. Begin with engaging questions, not demographics that feel bureaucratic. Consider question order effects and how context affects interpretation. Test flow with pilot participants. Monitor response rates and patterns during administration. If response rates are low, adjust strategy, send reminders, try different recruitment channels, consider incentives if approved. If respondents abandon at particular points, Consider whether those questions are problematic. Real-time monitoring enables intervention. Ensure technical reliability for online surveys. Test across different browsers and devices. Verify that skip logic works correctly. Confirm data is recording properly. Don't wait until collection ends to discover technical problems. Check early and periodically throughout. Follow up effectively with non-respondents. Reminder messages typically boost response rates significantly. Time reminders appropriately. Too soon feels pushy. Too late misses the window. Personalized follow-up often outperforms generic reminders, but respect when non-response indicates unwillingness to participate. Quality interviewing is a skill that develops with practice. Understanding core principles accelerates your development. Prepare thoroughly before each interview. Review your interview guide. Refresh your understanding of the study's purposes. If interviewing specific individuals, review what you know about them. Mental preparation helps you stay focused and responsive during the actual conversation. Build rapport before diving into substantive questions. A few minutes of warm-up conversation helps participants feel comfortable. Explain the interview process, answer questions, and establish a conversational tone. Rushed, transactional openings produce guarded responses. Active listening matters more than scripted delivery. Your interview guide provides structure, but the magic happens when you really hear what participants say and follow interesting threads. If someone mentions something important but unexpected, explore it rather than rigidly following your script. Flexibility within structure characterizes skilled interviewing. Probe skillfully for depth and clarity. When answers are vague, ask for specifics or examples. When something interesting appears, ask for elaboration. When you don't understand, ask for clarification rather than assuming. Effective probes sound natural, not interrogative. Close appropriately by thanking participants, allowing final thoughts, and explaining next steps. Participants should feel their contribution is valued. If appropriate, ask if they'd be willing to be contacted for clarification. Warm closure builds goodwill and leaves doors open. Process interviews promptly, write notes, begin transcription, record impressions while fresh. Delayed processing loses valuable context. Observational research requires skills distinct from other data collection methods. Excellence develops through deliberate practice and reflection. Balance participation with observation according to your role. Complete observers focus entirely on watching and recording. Participant observers engage in activities while also observing. Your chosen role determines how you behave in the setting, but even complete observers influence settings through their presence. Find the balance appropriate for your study. Develop systematic field note practices. Take jottings during observation, brief notes capturing key moments. Expand these into full field notes as soon as possible after observing, while memories are fresh. Delayed note writing loses crucial detail. Establish consistent formats and routines that make note-taking sustainable over extended fieldwork. Be aware of how your presence influences settings. People behave differently when watched. The Hawthorne effect reminds us that observation itself is an intervention. Consider how your identity, role, and behavior affect what you see. This awareness doesn't eliminate influence, but enables thoughtful interpretation. Record descriptively before interpreting. Describe what you actually see and hear, behaviors, words, physical details, before adding your interpretations and impressions. Separating description from interpretation helps you recognize where observation ends and analysis begins. Your field notes should enable readers to see what happened, not just what you thought about it. Engage in regular reflexive practice. How are your background and assumptions shaping what you notice and how you interpret it? Reflexive memos examining your own positioning, reactions, and evolving understanding are essential complements to descriptive field notes. Experimental research requires particular attention to procedural rigor because causal inference depends on controlled conditions. Adhere strictly to your experimental protocol. Every participant should experience procedures as designed. Deviation from protocol introduces unwanted variation that can confound results. Train experimenters thoroughly and monitor fidelity throughout data collection. Document any necessary deviations. Implement random assignment properly. If you're randomizing participants to conditions, use actual randomization procedures, random number generators, or assignment software, not informal allocation. Block randomization ensures balanced group sizes. Check that randomization produced comparable groups and report baseline characteristics. Maintain blinding where applicable. If participants shouldn't know their condition assignment, ensure nothing reveals it. If experimenters shouldn't know, implement procedures that prevent them from learning. Broken blinding introduces bias that undermines your study's validity. Take blinding seriously. Standardize conditions across all participants. The physical environment, instructions given, timing, experimenter behavior, all should be consistent. Variation in conditions creates alternative explanations for outcome differences. Detailed protocols and standardized scripts help ensure consistency. Control potential confounding factors. Time of day, experimenter characteristics, equipment variations. Many factors could systematically vary with conditions if not controlled. Think through what might differ between conditions besides your manipulation, then prevent or measure those differences. Unanticipated confounds are easier to prevent than to explain away. Data collection rarely proceeds exactly as planned. Anticipating challenges and preparing responses keeps minor problems from becoming major crises. Anticipate common problems before they occur. What might go wrong? Low response rates, participant attrition, equipment failure, scheduling conflicts, incomplete responses, participant distress, data quality issues. These problems are common enough that planning for them is prudent, not pessimistic. Develop contingency plans for likely challenges. If response rates are low, what's your enhanced recruitment strategy? If key equipment fails, what's your backup? If a participant becomes distressed, what support will you provide? Having plans in advance enables calm, effective response rather than panicked improvisation. Stay flexible while maintaining rigor. When problems arise, rigid adherence to initial plans may be impossible or counterproductive. Adapting thoughtfully to challenges is appropriate. The key is maintaining the essence of your design while adjusting details. Flexibility doesn't mean abandoning standards. It means achieving goals through alternative means when necessary. Document problems and their resolution. Your methods section should honestly describe what happened, not pretend everything proceeded perfectly. Documentation helps readers evaluate your work and helps future researchers learn from your experience. Hidden problems undermine trustworthiness. Know when to consult advisors. Some problems are minor enough to handle independently, others require guidance. When you're uncertain whether an adjustment is appropriate, when problems affect fundamental aspects of your design, or when you face decisions with significant consequences, consult before acting. Longitudinal research and multi-session studies face participant attrition. Strong retention strategies preserve sample integrity and reduce bias from differential dropout. Set clear expectations from the start. Participants who understand the full commitment are less likely to drop out unexpectedly. Be honest about time requirements, number of sessions, and what participation involves. Unrealistic expectations lead to early attrition when reality disappoints. Make participation as convenient as possible. Flexible scheduling accommodates participants' lives. Accessible locations reduce barriers. Online options enable participation from anywhere. Reducing friction demonstrates respect for participants' time and reduces the excuses that lead to dropout. Maintain appropriate contact between sessions for longer studies. Periodic check-ins, updates about the research, and reminders of upcoming sessions keep participants engaged. But calibrate frequency. Too much contact feels intrusive. Too little loses connection. Find the appropriate rhythm for your study and population. Express genuine appreciation throughout participation, not just at the end. Thank participants after each session. Consider appropriate compensation or incentives if your IRB approved them. Acknowledge that their time is valuable and their contribution matters. Feeling valued motivates continued participation. Follow up promptly when participants miss scheduled sessions. Immediate, friendly contact often rescues the relationship. Waiting signals that their participation doesn't matter. When following up, be understanding about whatever caused the missed session and focus on rescheduling rather than expressing disappointment. Thorough documentation during data collection serves multiple essential purposes: enabling methodological transparency, supporting your own memory when writing up results, and creating an audit trail demonstrating research integrity. Maintain a detailed research log throughout data collection. Record what happens each day, how many participants, any problems encountered, decisions made, observations about the process. This contemporaneous record captures information you'll forget later and provides evidence of systematic practice. Document decisions and their rationale in real time. When you adjust procedures, add a recruitment strategy, or modify how you handle a recurring situation, write down what you did and why. 6 months later, you won't remember why you made certain choices. Documentation preserves that reasoning. Track data collection progress systematically. Know how many participants you've recruited, how many completed, response rates, and demographic distributions. Tracking spreadsheets or databases enable monitoring and prevent surprises. Discovering you're short on participants or missing key groups is better discovered during collection than after. Note problems and how they were addressed. Equipment malfunctions, difficult interviews, unusual participant reactions, data quality concerns. Record these as they occur, along with your response. This information may be relevant to interpretation and demonstrates your handling of challenges. Create an audit trail that would allow someone else to understand exactly how your research was conducted. Between your protocol, research log, decision memos, and data tracking, the full story of your data collection should be reconstructible. This transparency supports trustworthiness and enables appropriate evaluation of your work. Quality assurance shouldn't wait until data collection ends. Ongoing monitoring catches problems while they're still fixable and enables continuous improvement. Check data regularly during collection, not just at the end. Review survey responses for completion and plausibility. Listen to interview recordings to assess quality. Examine observation notes for comprehensiveness. Early checking reveals problems, unclear questions, interviewer habits, incomplete recording, while there's still opportunity to address them. Monitor for consistency across collectors if multiple people gather data. Do different interviewers ask questions the same way? Do observers use categories consistently? Inter-rater reliability checks identify drift or differences requiring recalibration. Training is ongoing, not just initial. Identify and correct errors early. Missing data, implausible values, recording problems, procedural deviations. Catch these quickly. Some errors can be fixed by contacting participants or repeating procedures. Others can't be fixed but should inform interpretation. Early detection is always better than late discovery. Establish feedback loops with your research team if you have one. Regular debriefings allow team members to share challenges, ask questions, and learn from each other's experiences. Creating a culture where concerns are raised and addressed openly improves data quality across the board. Improve procedures based on accumulating experience. As you learn what works and what doesn't, refine your approach. This doesn't mean constantly changing your protocol. It means optimizing within your approved procedures. Document improvements and their rationale. Research on sensitive topics, trauma, abuse, illness, illegal behavior, stigmatized experiences requires particular attention to participant and researcher well-being during data collection. Create safe, private, comfortable settings for discussing sensitive topics. Privacy matters both literally, no one should overhear, and psychologically, participants should feel the space is secure. Physical comfort, adequate time, and relaxed pacing all contribute to safety that enables authentic disclosure. Monitor participant well-being throughout data collection. Watch for signs of distress, emotional reactions, physical discomfort, requests to pause. Check in periodically during longer sessions. Make explicit that participants can skip questions or stop entirely without consequence. Your consent form promised voluntariness. Your behavior during data collection must honor that promise. Know resources for distressed participants before you need them. What support services are available? What referrals might be appropriate? How do you respond if someone expresses thoughts of self-harm? Having resources ready enables helpful response rather than fumbling when someone is vulnerable. Attend to your own well-being as a researcher. Hearing difficult stories takes a toll. Secondary trauma is real. Build in self-care practices, supervision or consultation, and realistic assessment of your capacity. You cannot support participants well if you're overwhelmed yourself. Debrief appropriately after difficult sessions. Allow participants to process their experience of participation, share resources where relevant, express genuine appreciation for their willingness to share difficult material. Don't rush closure when participants need time to transition back to their regular lives. Data management begins at the moment of collection, not after. Establishing good practices from the start prevents problems and protects both data and participants. Secure storage should begin immediately when data is collected. Digital data goes to secure, encrypted storage, not open folders on shared drives. Physical materials go to locked locations. The security you promised in your consent form must be implemented from day one. Delays between collection and secure storage create vulnerability. Regular backups prevent catastrophic data loss. Hard drives fail, computers are stolen, files become corrupted. If your only copy of interview transcripts is on your laptop, your research is at serious risk. Establish backup routines, automated cloud backup, regular copies to secure external drives, and verify backups actually work. Clear file naming and organization systems save enormous time and prevent errors. Develop naming conventions that identify participants, dates, and data types consistently. Organize folders logically so anyone could find specific data without extensive searching. Good organization matters more as data accumulates. Version control becomes important as documents evolve. Which interview transcript is the cleaned version? Which data set has corrections applied? Naming conventions that include version numbers or dates, or using version control systems, prevent confusion about which file is current, and preserve history of changes. Limit access to authorized personnel only, password protect files, limit folder permissions. If team members leave the project, remove their access. Access management implements the confidentiality protections you promised and may be required by your institution. Sometimes data collection reveals that planned procedures aren't working. Knowing when and how to adjust requires judgment that balances flexibility with consistency. Distinguish systemic problems from isolated incidents. If one interview goes poorly, that's not necessarily a procedure problem. Some interviews are just difficult. If every interview hits the same obstacle, your guide probably needs revision. Look for patterns before concluding that changes are needed. Consult before making significant changes. Your advisor and IRB should be informed about substantial adjustments. What seems like a minor tweak to you might have methodological implications you haven't considered. Major changes may require protocol amendments. Get guidance before acting on your own assessment. Document adjustments and their rationale thoroughly. Why did you change? What exactly was modified? When did the change occur? How does this affect interpretation? Future readers and future you need to understand what happened and why. Undocumented changes create confusion about what was actually done. Consider implications for already collected data. If you change interview questions, how do you handle interviews already conducted with the old questions? If you modify experimental procedures, can you compare data from different procedure versions? Changes midstream create analytical complexity that must be addressed thoughtfully. Balance flexibility with consistency. Some adjustment to procedures is natural and appropriate as you learn from early implementation, but constant tinkering undermines the consistency your methodology requires. Find the balance between rigid adherence to problematic procedures and instability that prevents meaningful comparison. Technology enables many data collection approaches, but also introduces dependencies and potential problems. Strategic technology use enhances research without creating unnecessary risks. Choose appropriate tools for your specific methods and participants. The best survey platform for college students may not work for elderly participants with limited computer experience. The most sophisticated recording equipment isn't helpful if it's too complex to operate reliably. Match technology to your actual needs and context. Test technology thoroughly before actual data collection. Run through complete procedures using the actual equipment and platforms you'll use. Verify that recordings capture adequate audio. Confirm that online surveys work across different browsers and devices. Discover technical problems in testing, not with real participants. Have backup plans for technical failure because it will happen eventually. Bring extra batteries. Have backup recording devices. Know how to proceed if internet connectivity fails during an online session. The session you lose to technical problems without backup is always the one with the most valuable data. Consider security and privacy implications of technology choices. Is data encrypted in transit and at rest? Where are servers located? Who has access? Consumer-oriented tools may not meet research security requirements. Institutional solutions, though sometimes less convenient, often offer better protection. Don't let technology overshadow the human element of research. Fancy equipment shouldn't distract from genuine connection with participants. If you're fiddling with recording devices rather than listening to what participants say, technology is working against you. Master technology enough that it recedes into the background. Data collection, especially intensive fieldwork or numerous interviews, can be physically and emotionally draining. Sustainable practices protect both you and your research quality. Data collection exhaustion is real. Long days of interviews, extended observation periods, or intensive experimental sessions accumulate. Fatigue affects your attention, your responsiveness to participants, and your research quality. Acknowledging this reality is the first step toward managing it. Pace yourself sustainably. Don't schedule back-to-back interviews all day every day because you're eager to finish quickly. Build in breaks between sessions for notes, processing, and recovery. A pace you can maintain over weeks or months serves you better than sprint intensity that leads to burnout. Build in recovery time deliberately. After intensive collection periods, take time off from research entirely. Physical rest, enjoyable activities, and mental breaks restore capacity. Recovery isn't laziness, it's necessary maintenance that enables continued effective work. Seek support when needed. Discuss challenging interviews with your advisor. Connect with peers going through similar experiences. If research content is affecting you emotionally, seek appropriate counseling or supervision. Isolation during difficult data collection compounds strain unnecessarily. Maintain perspective on your progress. Data collection can feel endless, especially when you're in the middle. Track how much you've accomplished and celebrate milestones. Remind yourself that this phase is temporary and that each completed session brings you closer to your goal. Progress visibility sustains motivation. Let's apply what we've covered to your own research planning. Work through these prompts to strengthen your data collection preparation. First, list your data collection procedures step by step, from initial recruitment through the final participant interaction. What exactly happens in what order? Write this as if someone else needed to implement your procedures. Details matter. Vague plans produce inconsistent implementation. Second, identify 3 challenges likely to arise and plan your responses. Maybe low response rates, scheduling difficulties, or participant confusion about certain questions. For each challenge, what will you do? Having specific plans for predictable problems enables faster, more effective response. Third, design your documentation system. What logs will you keep? How will you name and organize files? What decisions will you memo? When will you update tracking? A system designed in advance is more likely to be followed than one improvised during busy collection periods. Fourth, plan your quality assurance approach. When will you check data quality? How will you ensure consistency? What signals will alert you to problems? Building quality assurance into your plan ensures it actually happens rather than being squeezed out by collection pressures. Fifth, create a realistic timeline with milestones. How many participants per week? When will you complete recruitment, data collection, and data cleaning? Include buffer time for problems. Optimistic timelines create stress. Realistic timelines enable sustainable progress. Let's consolidate what we've covered about data collection best practices. Thorough preparation before data collection begins prevents many problems that would otherwise disrupt your research. Finalized instruments, clear protocols, pilot testing, logistics planning, and contingency development all contribute to smooth implementation. Invest time in preparation. Quality requires ongoing attention throughout data collection, not just at the end. Regular data checks, consistency monitoring, feedback loops, and continuous improvement maintain high standards. Build quality assurance into your routines rather than treating it as an afterthought. Flexibility within rigor enables effective response to inevitable challenges. Procedures rarely work exactly as planned. Adapting thoughtfully while maintaining essential elements of your design preserves both research integrity and practical feasibility. Know when and how to adjust. Documentation creates the transparency that underpins trustworthy research. Research logs, decision memos, tracking systems, and audit trails enable others to understand and evaluate your work. They also help you remember what happened when writing up results months later. Document as you go. In our next video, we'll explore Introduction to Data Analysis. What happens after you've collected your data? The quality of data you gather through careful collection directly affects what analysis can reveal. Strong data collection creates the foundation for meaningful findings. Writing the thesis is a marathon, not a sprint, but you do not have to run it alone. If you are feeling stuck with your data or overwhelmed by your sources, let us help. Head over to subthesis.com. It is completely free and designed to make your life easier. You are making progress. Keep going. And don't forget to subscribe for more support.